March is one of the most important months in the beekeeping calendar. If we haven't met yet, I'm Charlie from Jurassic Bees. We're down here on the Dorset coast and we focus on raising buckfast and Carniolan queens and nukes specifically bred for UK conditions. For me, March is always the worst month of the year. It's the transition period. Colonies are beginning to come out of their winter dormancy, from their winter clusters. They're starting to ramp up. We're itching to get in there and find out what's going on. We're itching to find out what our winter losses have been, but it's still too early. We've still got one more month left to go before really the spring kicks in, or certainly until April. So in this video, I'll cover what we do, what we're looking at, and what our focus is on in March. Tip number one, early spring starvation. Now this has to be the biggest tip. The thing to take away in March is if your bees are going to starve over winter, it's going to happen now. This month, this week, now. So a couple of weeks ago I went round, we had a bit of nice weather. It's 15 degrees and I managed to get in around half our colonies, look to see what was alive, look to see what was dead. We've had some fantastic overwintering success. And every single colony that had a laying queen, they had 2 or 3 frames of brood in all stages, lots of sealed brood, and I'm thinking, fantastic, great, we're coming out of the winter, we've had all that horrible weather over winter, we're coming into spring. The bees know it, they're out foraging pollen, the queens are ramping up their brood, and then bam, back to miserable Dorset, horrible, windy, wet, miserable weather. And that's a problem. It's a problem for the bees. So the bees, they've committed, they've started ramping up their brood rearing. All of those winter bees, they're committed to that process. They're using their reserved fat body to feed the next round of brood. And they're getting that incoming pollen and that's stimulating them. And then bam, we're back down to 8 degrees, windy, 20-mile-an-hour winds, rain. And that slows them right down. That puts the brakes on. And the bees have gone from that ramping up back down to winter cluster mode, and they're back into clustering around their brood, consuming their stores to keep it warm. So this is the big risk period. So hefting your colonies is a must, absolute must. Now, that brings us on to feeding. So what do you do if you need to feed your bees at this time of year? The easiest and most reliable method is without a doubt fondant, just bog standard fondant popped on top of the frames. That's what I would suggest to most people. If you want reliability and ease, fondant. But fondant isn't the only choice. We have started feeding light syrup, and light syrup it's a bit more risky, but it has other benefits. So I'll just quickly go through the benefits for you. So the benefits are that syrup stimulates a nectar flow, and when the bees have that nectar resource coming in, it stimulates hygienic behaviours. The bees go out and fly more, they forage for more pollen. So that's a well-known fact. There's research papers on that. But the other benefit is that actually when bees take sugar syrup or nectar, they add enzymes to it. So we would have all heard about invertase. One of the other enzymes they add is diastase. When bees convert sugars into gluconic acid using the enzyme glucose oxidase, the reaction process generates a small amount of hydrogen peroxide, and that contributes to the hygienic conditions in the brood nest. Now, that reaction process actually creates, believe it or not, a small amount of hydrogen peroxide inside the honey. That's why honey has that antibacterial properties. And they actually store that around the edge of the brood nest. It's fascinating, really. And that produces a really hygienic environment for the bees inside the brood nest. So there we go. There's a reason why we feed sugar syrup, but the other reason is that we're targeting some large growth in the spring. We're targeting some oilseed rape, so we want our colonies to be nice and big and strong. And I'm not fussed about swarming. I'll manage that in the spring. But the risk is, if we grow them too big, they can swarm early in the season, or even worse, they'll clog up the brood nest. So they're the two risks. They're the things you've got to consider if you want to feed fondant or sugar syrup. If you want the reliable method, the easy way is fondant. Tip number 2, the first inspections of the season. Oh, the best day of the year. Yes, we're back in the bees. Not yet, nearly, very nearly. So let me caveat this, we're down on the south coast, and I've got in my diary the first week in April or the last week in March. That's normally when we go in and do our inspections. But I'm not just going to go by the diary. The weather has to be right. 14 degrees and above, nice flying days. We want to see the bees coming in and out. When we get to those points, that's when we'll do our first inspections. Now, you'll hear a lot of people tell you to wait for t-shirt weather days. I mean, I'm quite often in t-shirts, so I don't really know what that means. And every year we see this happening over and over again. People will be waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting, get through April, way into the back of April, then they'll do their first inspections and they've already missed the problems that they could have fixed in the early April. So there's a number of things that you can fix early doors. We'll go through them in a minute. But my advice to you is do not wait until the back end of April, back end of March. If you've got nice weather, if you've got a window of opportunity, 14, 15 degrees, go and do an inspection. It doesn't have to be a full inspection. You can be a quick in and out, and it gives you that chance to see where you are, see where the bees are, see if they need help, and you can correct problems at that stage. Right now, at this time, you can't correct problems. If I go in this colony and I find they're queenless, maybe, I don't know, maybe she's just turned drone layer, I can't recover it. We don't have queens. Come the first week in April, early season queens are available. I can recover that situation. That's when I can actually put right problems that I find. So that's what we're waiting for. So on that first inspection, what do we look for? This doesn't need to be one of those days where you're going through frame by frame and you're admiring all the different pollen and the brood and the drones and the queens and all of those things. The first inspections need to be quick, in and out, being gentle. You don't want to roll that queen, but we need to look for, is the queen present? So we're looking for signs of eggs, really. That's what we want to see this time of year. If we don't see signs of eggs, we really want to see brood. Hopefully we've got capped brood, capped worker brood. Do we see the queen? If we don't see those things, okay, that's kind of the first thing we want to look for. Don't go hunting for the queen. If we find eggs, we're happy. At that point, we can really gauge whether they've got enough feed, whether we need to do some stimulation feeding or some emergency feeding, or whether we're just happy to let them go on their own. Then we're looking for space. So you'll notice I've double brooded some of these colonies. We've underbrooded. We followed a tip from Lawrence from Black Mountain Honey. Works really well, to be fair. So a few of our bigger colonies we've underbrooded. Once we sort of get into April, middle of April, back end of April, that's when we'll probably stick brood boxes on top, or even supers by that point. But we need to gauge how big that colony is before we do any of those steps. So that's what that first inspection is all about. It's nothing more than a quick glancery note just to see where the colony is and what steps we need to take at that point. And then looking 6 weeks ahead and planning what the actions are going to be. Are they booming? Are they absolutely rammed with brood? We probably need to be thinking about making an early season split. You might want to get an early season queen. If they're dwindling, well, there's other steps we might need to take. Maybe that queen is there, but she's laying no eggs. So perhaps you need to replace that queen, whatever. These are all early things that we can check out and we can make a decision first week in April onwards, once that weather is 14 degrees and above and the bees are flying. Tip number 3, apiary hygiene. So it's still pretty quiet at the moment, but in the next few weeks it's going to start going manic. Now is your last chance to get anything around the apiary done. Just noticed I've had a woodpecker take a tap on one of my boxes over there, so I need to get that on the to-do list. But before inspections become routine, now is a really good time to just reset our apiary hygiene. So we like to use a white bucket. I think these are 12-litre buckets. And in those we add our hive tool and any tools for that apiary. We use bleach and soda crystals. I'll put the link to the sterilisation sheet from the MBU below. And personally, we do those apiary by apiary. So every apiary has got its own set of tools, and every apiary we change our gloves. You know what? If you've got 1 or 2 colonies in your garden, you might change your gloves between each colony. You might have a set of tools for each one, entirely up to you. But now is the time just to reset that policy and get that procedure in your mind and set your tools up, because in a few weeks' time, it's going to be flat out and you will kick yourself crazy if you think to yourself, all right, yeah, well, I'll deal with that later, and the first colony you go in, you pop them open and they've got some disease or a virus or a fungus or whatever, and then you go to your next colony and you spread it into the healthy one. Now's the time. It's still quiet at the moment. Reset your hygiene procedures and just get everything on board. This is your last warning for the season. Tip number 4, swarm preventions. Now, we're literally, hard to believe it at the moment, but I reckon we'll see our first swarms within the next 4 to 6 weeks. That's where I put my money on, and so now is your time to just refresh yourself on your swarm prevention. So what are your plans for this year? Are you going to be making splits, artificial swarms if you want increases or recovering from winter losses? Do you want to maintain the number of bees you've got? So maybe you'll go for a demarré split. Maybe you want to carry a few nukes through winter for insurance purposes, or maybe you want to go out and collect some swarms. Literally a few weeks away and we'll be into that game. So now is your last chance to get everything ready. Relearn what you need to relearn. Go out and remember everything you've forgotten over the winter. 6 weeks time, the first swarms will be leaving. That's when I'm going to put the date on it. Tip number 5, preparing for new nucleus colonies. Now, if you're one of the lucky customers that's getting one of our nukes, then brilliant, the bees are looking great. Or maybe you're just starting out in beekeeping this year. Again, bees are going to start arriving in nucleus colonies in the next 4 weeks, something like that. So now is your last warning to get yourself ready. Get your beehive set up, get it in the garden, get it in the position where you think they're going to live. You know, spend a few weeks looking at it, seeing how the sunshine interacts with it, just checking that it's in the right spot, because once you move bees into it, it's just so much more difficult to move it, even if you want to move it from this side to that side. So now is your last chance. Get your hive set up, get them on the hive stand, check that you're happy with it, and then prepare other things. So make sure you got your bee suit, put your bee suit on, just, you know, see how it feels, get used to wearing it. Light your smoker. I remember when I started, years ago, and we started off and the bees were there and I lit the smoker and damn, the thing went out within like minutes. It is an art to getting a smoker lit and keeping it lit, and really I would say for now, for your practice, try and get it lit and keep it lit for 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Now, once you get quick, a colony inspection takes 5 minutes. You know, you can be in and out as quick as you want. But when you're starting, you're a little slower and, you know, you get distracted by, oh, look at the pollen and look at the drone and look at this worker bee emerging and all of the fantastic things you see inside a colony. You need your smoker to be lit and stay in the lit for at least half an hour. So practice now, head out into the garden, figure out how you're going to do it, what fuel you're going to use. We like to use cardboard to get it lit, and then I use cat litter. It's like a pine-based cat litter. I'll show you some videos of it. Once I light that, do you know what? That thing will stay lit for hours. So that's my tips. Go out and figure out, familiarise yourself with your tools and your equipment now. Again, a few weeks' time, they're going to be here, it's going to be on you, and the season's going to be underway. Tip number 6, provide water. Now, this is one of those things which is seriously underestimated, is water. So this time of year, colonies are building up with brood, so they need to maintain the moisture content inside the nest. Probably most of the food that's left in the frames is crystallized ivy honey, and the bees need water to break that down. So water is just one of those things that, for all nature, we just don't give it enough credit for how important it is. So I'll tell you a story about our water situation. An apiary near home, we set out it was a lovely little stand. We had some pebbles and we had some water in it, and thought, great, the bees are going to love that. Did the bees like it? Did they? Heck, they just like, nope, don't want to know about that. That's too clean, that water. They headed over the back of the hedge into the dirtiest, muddiest, muckiest pond you can imagine. It was a puddle, sorry, and they was drinking that. So it's like very much like my dogs. They don't want the nice clean water I give them. They want the dirty water. But leave some water out for the bees. The last thing you really want is the bees to head over to your neighbours and start hassling whatever water resource they've got. There's another funny story. I keep a couple of colonies in the garden, my breeder queens, My neighbours know about them, you know, they're all on board and they loved seeing them. And last year we had contact from one of our neighbours that said, we've got an awful lot of bees in our garden. And I thought, oh crap, this is this time of year. So I went and had a look. And it was one of those Hessian foot mats that are made from the coconut coir, I think it's called. And the bees were absolutely loving it. So there's a top tip, wet coconut matting. The bees love it. I guess it gathers some warmth from the sun and it holds the moisture in all that coconut coir stuff. The bees were loving it. So there we go. That's what we use now. It's a really good way of, you know, just getting some water out there for the bees. Once they find it, they'll all find it. Tip number 7, removing mouse guards. So we're past the mouse risk season really. So we're going to be removing all of our mouse guards. With lots of these Abelo ones, you can just slide it open and it gives a wider section to be open. Ultimately, what we're aiming to do is to make sure that we don't knock off any pollen that the bees come back with after they've been out foraging. That's critical for them to start building up their reserves. And the mouse guards, the little holes, they can just knock off a little bit of pollen. And you know what? If they've been out foraging, we want them to keep as much as possible. The mouse season, pretty much over now. I can't imagine there'll be any mice going into hibernation. They've already hibernated, they've already got their nests. So we're going to be removing mouse guards, and actually as I look at this colony, I can see that where we've got the mouse guard on, there's a little bit of congestion. The bees are sort of queuing up to get in and out, and really we don't need them now, so they're coming off. Tip number 8, again, last warning, prepare your equipment. Foundation, feeders, brood boxes, supers, you know the drill by now. Get it all ready, last few weeks, and we're going to be into it. Now, just on supers, really, we probably second week of April. It's going to be a little later this year, I reckon. Everything's a little bit behind where it normally is, just due to the bad weather. So again, we're getting ready. For all I know, this weather could turn next week, could be glorious sunshine, and we're going to have to put supers on. I'm seeing hawthorn out in bloom. So, you know, there is a chance of a flow on if the weather perks up. At the moment, it's a no. We're not adding extra space on top of the brood boxes. We're not adding supers. Too early, too cold for that for us down here, but we need to be ready. Tip number 9, understanding colony build-up. Now, we are seeing colonies starting to grow again. We're seeing broods starting to be laid, but they're not out of the season yet. There comes a point in every colony, in every year, called the crossover day. Now, what that means is if you consider you've got all of your old winter bees and they're slowly dying off, slowly dying off, and you've got your emerging new brood and they're ramping up, and at some point we'll get a crossover where that natural attrition crosses over from that natural expansion, and that's really when the bees are in there. They come out of their survival mode and into their spring expansion mode. That's when they're safe. We're not there yet. We're a good few weeks away from that. We just need to keep on understanding that the bees we're seeing are probably still mostly old winter bees. They're not our summer bees, not yet. They're coming. We just need to keep on feeding and keep on looking after them. This isn't about growth yet. We're not in the growth phase. Once we cross that crossover phase, then we can start thinking about growth. And finally, tip number 10, if you've had a rubbish winter, if you've lost colonies, if you need to rebuild your numbers quickly, early season splits is the way to do that. You can take 2 frames of brood out in April and May, add a mated queen in. If you've got drawn comb in your supers, that colony will very quickly build out in their brood box, add your supers on, and you've got a very good chance of still getting some honey that season. And you know what? You've got a really good strong colony to get through the wasp season and to get into next winter. So if you've had a rubbish season, get your orders in for early season queens. If you're looking to expand, then get your orders in now. Just due to the amount of losses that people have experienced over the winter, the demand for early season queens is pretty high. I think we're sold out. I think we might have a few left last week in April, but I'm kind of looking at them myself and thinking, well, maybe I could be using them. Lots of suppliers, they're already sold out of April queens, and certainly we're seeing orders come in for our May queens. So I think this season's going to be a tough one for queens, certainly early season queens. The demand is high, and you know what, if we have a bad summer, I think even for UK mated queens, it's going to be pretty tough to get hold of queens. So I would suggest to get your queen orders in early. Now, I know we sell queens, so take that with a pinch of salt. I don't mean to sound like a salesman. It's the last thing I want. I'm just giving you the heads up. The demand for queens is going to be exceptionally high just due to the overwinter losses people have had. If we have a rubbish summer, queens are going to be hard to come by. So there's my forecast. Right, there we go. That wraps it up for March. Oh, I hope this weather picks up. I hope the bees have overwintered well with you. I hope spring is on its way. A few more weeks left yet, and then we'll finally be into the real beekeeping. But right now, heft, feed, water, sit on your hands. A couple more weeks, then we can get into the fun stuff and the fun side of beekeeping. Right, if you enjoyed that, tune in next month. We'll be into April. We'll be into some real beekeeping stuff. I'll give you my tips of what we're going to be doing around the apiaries, and I'll be showing you some of the real beekeeping things that we'll be doing. Tune in next month, and I'll catch you then. See you later.